had him drag me out, I'd still be in there taking pictures.
You'd still be in there. Don't know if you'd be doing much.
Don't know.
Hey, you want to freshen up? Regroup at the cafe?
Shadow of the Tomb Raider looks to round out the Origin trilogy that began in 2013, telling the story of how Lara Croft became the iconic character that we all fell for. It feels very familiar to anyone who played the previous two games, but does it end the trilogy with a bang or a whimper? Despite thoroughly enjoying the previous two games, I had feared the worst for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It may be the third entry in a series that I have so far loved, but it's had a change of developer, with Crystal Dynamics, who made the first two, handing over the reins to Deus Ex studio Eidos Montreal. And a change of this nature never usually ends well. Think Bioshock 2, think Batman Arkham Origins, think every Spyro game after the original trilogy. All games that lost something when they weren't handled by the creators of the series. Perhaps the biggest compliment I can give to this game is that you simply wouldn't know unless I'd just told you. It was a huge relief. What Eidos Montreal have brought to the game is a greater emphasis on stealth, hardly surprising when you're most well known for the Deus Ex series. Lara now has even more ways of stalking her foe, including smearing mud all over herself and blending into strategically placed walls. You're given plenty of opportunity to improvise and play around with the tools at your disposal, and it's great fun to plan your way through the well-guarded latter stages. The improved stealth is at the expense of the melee combat though, which is now next to useless. Most of the time, your best option when you get spotted is to simply allow yourself to be killed and restart from the last checkpoint. Replaying some sections over and over did get frustrating. Lara begins this game as the fully blown badass killing machine that she had become by the end of her last adventure. Trinity henchmen are dispatched in vicious ways without hesitation from almost the first minute. The developers also have a clear understanding of horror, as one latter section in particular was as brutal and intense as The Descent. It's a much more populated game than before too. It's thankfully resisted the temptation to go fully open world, but there are now smaller hub areas packed with NPCs to talk to and side quests to take up. The Geothermal Valley area from Rise of the Tomb Raider was a similar offering, but it comes nowhere near to the scale on show here. Each village you come across is densely populated and you're encouraged to talk to everyone, by the fact that they can sometimes offer clues to additional points of interest on the map. There's also a merchant you can visit to sell all your excess inventory items, allowing you to buy better weapons and upgrades. Once again, challenge tombs are scattered around the map and prove to be a real highlight. These optional one-off areas offer a nice variety of puzzles and are a nice break from the story. Although it must be said, I found there to be more tomb-like puzzles peppered throughout the main quest this time around as well. It was slightly annoying that the first couple I found were inaccessible, as I hadn't unlocked the right equipment yet. But considering 100% completion will require a lot of backtracking anyway, I could live with it. There are 9 hidden tombs in total to find, with a further 7 promised via DLC. The plot itself is definitely the game's weakest element, with none of its twists and turns being unpredictable. There's an ancient artifact with special powers that must be found and reunited with another, and you're in a race with Trinity to find it first. It's very much a Tomb Raider story by numbers, and it's a real shame as the performances of the entire cast are fantastic. Lara's companion Jonah is given a much larger role this time, and their relationship gives the game its beating heart. You're also never far from another action-packed set piece to dwell on it too much. It's also a much better plot than any of the movies. I should point out that, controversial opinion it may be, but I actually prefer both Lara's previous adventures to any of the Uncharted series, finding the combat more varied and enjoyable and the platforming sections to be much more satisfying. I've finished both of them to 100% and found myself getting bored before the end of any of Nathan Drake's adventures. Rise of the Tomb Raider remains the series' high point, but Shadow of the Tomb Raider is still a brilliant end to the trilogy. It does suffer from the expected sequel trap of being too familiar, and the plot is a disappointment. However, it's one of the best looking games I've ever seen, especially in 4K on the Xbox One X, and navigating the levels is always thrilling. This obviously won't be the last we see of Lara Croft, even if the end credits do suggest that this is the end of the origin story. But wherever Square Enix take it from here, we hope the quality remains this high.